and vibes together with Health Vibes. So be sure to tune in each and every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare. Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website www.jollies.gm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.gm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Lots of free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.gm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.gm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Health Vibes. Joining you here from the studios of Q95 FM Radio, bringing you or hoping to bring you another health education talk show with a little bit of vibes. My name is Trudy Christian. I was not on last week. And so people who were wondering, where Trudy was, I was out for a little bit, but I'm back and I am happy to be with you on the program. We are gearing up for the Christmas season, or we are in the Christmas season. So, of course, we have a particular topic lined up for you today that is in line with that. So, you need to stay tuned. If you're looking at us live, if you're joining us via the social media page of Q95 FM, you can already see that we have guests this morning. We have someone in studio and we have someone virtually joining us. So you can already see that. But if you're listening on radio, you don't know quite as yet what's going on. So you still are in the dark. But I urge you, if you can, to check out the Facebook page or YouTube channel of Q95 FM to see the show live, to get to view what it is that you're listening to. That is, if you can. I see our social media followers are starting to jump on and send in their well wishes. I want to say good morning to you guys. Al, I see you've popped on first. Good morning to you. And to the people listening to us on radio, a lot of people listening from the workplace. I meet people all the time that say they listen from work. They can hide to do it, if they're little AirPods in listening. People who are listening on their vehicles whilst they traverse the routes of Dominica this morning, our bus drivers, of course, people who are commuting, people who are in their various outdoor aspects of work and who always carry their little radio or their little the phone to listen to Q95. You're out on your farm, you're out fishing, whatever it is you may be doing, and you're tuned in to Q95. You're tuned in to Health Vibes. Good morning to you. A very special good morning to a fan who I seem to always meet every time I go to Jolly's, and she never wants to tell me what is her name, but she says she is religiously tuned in to Health Vibes. I met her this week. I want to say good morning. If you tuned in, as you said you always are, this good morning is for you. Hazelan, I see you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And of course, to all the rest of the Health Vibes crew. Now, it's a very special time for Jollies and for everyone. It's the Christmas season. This Saturday, Jollies is doing another Megaland. The first Megaland was in Portsmouth last weekend, last Saturday. This Saturday, there will be Megaland at Jolly's Mega, and that's in Fokole, of course. So you need to prepare to bring the children out to Megaland at Fokole. 3 p.m. is when all the fun kicks off. Of course, if you've been to Megaland before, you know the children get to experience a whole host of games and fun activities. I know we will have the bouncy castle and so on, and of course, a lot of treats and prizes for the children to win. So make sure to put that in your calendar if you're in the Roseau area and you want something to do with the children Saturday afternoon at JP Mega in Fokole. That's the place for you to be for Megaland. I'll be at Megaland. I was not at Portsmouth. I was out last weekend, but this weekend, God willing, I will be at Megaland in Fokole. So I hope to see you there. The people who are listening to the program and have children in their lives, please take that opportunity. School closes this week. So for the majority of our students, teachers, the Christmas break is beginning this week. Not for us at the State College. We still have another week left. We have exams next week. But for those in the primary and secondary schools, you're going to start holiday this week. And so Saturday is a good time to kick it off at Mega Land. All right. So I hope to see people, a lot of children taking the opportunity to enjoy Megaland. Jolly's specifically doing that for you this Saturday. And also, if you're a Jolly shopper, as you should be shopping at Jolly's, this season there's a special chance for you to win up to $4,500. You need to spend $100 or more, and you get to enter a draw that can lead you to $4,500. Of course, in celebration and recognition of Jolly's being the number one pharmacy here in Dominica for 45 years. So, $4,500, Jolly's 45 years old. Make sure when you shop, you get to enter that draw. Okay, so I know now is the time you would really want to win a little money. So make sure to make use of that opportunity. 45 years, $4,500 could be yours from Jolly's. Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance to tell a friend that we are on. Health Vibes is on, and we're about to dish out our topic for today. I'm going to take a quick break. Make sure to share the live if you tuned in via social media. Make sure if you're on the radio to shout to the neighbor, put on Q95. Q95 has been hot for the past couple of days. It's not going to be any cooler today. So please tell a friend to turn on their radios, to log on to Q95 FM. After this break, we will be back with you discussing something very, very interesting as it relates to the holiday season. We'll be right back.
Started feeling mistakes. I had temptations to call in sick, but I end up in Jolly's pharmacy. And out in the street, Jolly's fix up my immune system. Me feeling fit and strong now. I'm ready to work and pick on any mission. If you see me forget, Jolly's pharmacy is number one. Jolly's forget. We cater for everyone. Jolly's forget. So the immune system, Jolly's forget. Yo, Dominic, it's about Father Box. Whenever I'm in town and I'm feeling down, I head to Jolly's Pharmacy, then boost me up real quick. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Oh, and in the same convenience, you make a big difference. Then you can trust me. I know just where you should be. That is JP Mega. The one-stop shopping, nigga. You could be shopping and having fun. If you're not a happy social, it's a to everyone. What a happy place. Oh, JP Mega. The one-stop shopping, nigga. You could be shopping and having fun. It's a to everyone. What a happy place. Oh, what a happy place. But just fix some more any item and you automatically qualify for discounts. Check us out at the Mega Store in Fokole, where there's lots of parking on Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. On Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. JP Mega, the best family shopping experience. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing vibes to health with Health Vibes. Each and every Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 a.m. with your host Trudy Kristen and co-host pharmacist Jacinta Fagan and Leona Jeremiah. Education, information, and a bit of humor, and not forgetting lots of vibes. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together with Health Vibes. So be sure to tune in each and every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollys.gm. It's the It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at Tonis.gm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.gm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.gm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
And we are back with you. As I promised, we would be back with our guest and with our topic. Leona has just joined us. I want to say good morning to her. I want to give her a little chance to, to fix up herself a bit. But Leona, good morning to you.
And of course, today's topic is one that touches my heart, so I'm really happy that we can discuss it here with you all today.
Yes, we haven't spilt the beans yet, Leona, on the topic, but we're going to do that now because we have our guests waiting. We have our viewers popping up. Ivinia, good morning to you. I see you on. So this morning, as I said, it's the Christmas season. It's the holiday season, and whereas it is a festive season, a time where a lot is to be celebrated. It's the end of the year. It is the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ on a social and religious front. There is a lot to celebrate and there is a lot of festivity which accompanies the Christmas season. However, there is the other side of that. There are people who genuinely struggle during the season and at other times as well with mental health concerns. There is a phrase that we use often called holiday blues, people feeling down and sad during the holiday season. And there is something that is also very common. It's this sort of concept that in the festive season, in the Christmas season, at the end of the year, grief seems to hit particularly hard for all of us who have lost, family, friends, loved ones. So we're dealing this morning with how to really manage your mental health during this season of dichotomy, some festive and some sad. So how do you manage this your mental health during this season with all its challenges? And to help us discuss this topic, we've brought in someone from overseas. We've brought in someone who's locally based because we wanted to get the best of all worlds here on Health Vibes. So our guest this morning, we have joining us virtually from St. Vincent, Odelia Thomas, who is a colleague of mine and a women's health advocate, but she's a psychologist as well. And I will have her introduce herself. We also have Antonia Yankee on with us, a counselor as well, but locally based. And so we have the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have Dominica in the house, and we're going to be talking about managing your mental health. I'll start with Odelia and have her introduce. Odelia, good morning to you.
Good morning, Trudy. Good
It's a
morning
pleasure.
to my fellow panelists.
It's
Good
a pleasure
morning,
to have you
Dominica.
on. I want you to tell our audience exactly who Odelia Thomas is. How did she end up joining us from St. Vincent on Health Vibes this morning?
Okay, so my name is Odelia Thomas. I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am a psychologist by training with a master's degree in clinical and counseling psychology. And I work presently as the counselor in our gender affairs department in our Ministry of the Family et al. I met Trudy many years ago through a regional organization where we are both women's health advocates. So we have been doing collaborations over the years on women's health topics. And she invited me today to talk about mental health because both topics are passions of mine, mental health and women's health. Without mental health, you really have no health. And
Right.
so I love to talk about it.
Mhm. And I do know that, Odile. I know you're very passionate about mental health awareness, and I really agree with you. There is no health without mental health. Mental health is a critical aspect of our overall health. So very happy to have you on, and our second guest who is live in studio. So if you're looking at us on if you're looking at us on Facebook or on YouTube, you'll see we have one person sharing our screen here. That's Odile, and we have someone live in studio, and that is Antonia Yankee. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning with the team. My name is Antonia Yankee, as Trudy said. I work with the Ministry of Education.
Mhm.
I am a guidance counselor. I work in the North District, so I support the schools Coliho to Marigot as a counselor. I specialize in loss, grief, and trauma management. Hence why I'm here with you
Mhm.
today.
Is it the first time on Health Vibes?
Yes, it
First
is.
time on Health Vibes, but of course you've been on other programs with me.
With you,
Yes,
yes.
I always try to drag you on. So once I know there is some aspect of grief counseling that I need to have discussed, I know who to call. Bring her right from the north down here into the studios of Q95 for this show. So it's a great pleasure to have you ladies on with us this morning, and let's get the conversation rolling. I want to. Leona said she's very passionate about her. She's very. This topic is dear to her heart. So I will maybe let Leona get the ball rolling, since she said that it's very dear to her. It's dear to my heart too. But Leona, let me make you get the ball rolling. Our guests are here, and I see a lot of people popping on. I encourage everyone, as I always do, to share the live, and to share. If you know someone who would benefit from the conversation we're going to have this morning, share it with them. It's a good opportunity to do so. Yes.
Right. So definitely one dear to my heart. And it really should be something and it is something that's relevant to all of us. As Miss Thomas said, there is no health without mental health. And
Mhm.
so you really need to, as much as we take care of our bodies, take care of our mental health as well. And being a pharmacist in the pharmacy, we'll come across these things every day. And a lot of times, persons who are often lively or fine, whatever the case may be, at some point in your life will experience some form of stressful situation, whether it be, like we said, loss or grief, or some major life change, some financial difficulties. A lot of people have that imposter syndrome, so you tend to feel like you're not yourself, or your goals are not as big as they really are. And
Mhm.
sometimes, a lot of people express this when they're trying to achieve different things, whether it be school, studying, trying to get into a new position, your career. So there's a lot of external factors that can affect how we feel, how deeply we feel, and when we feel these types of ways. So mental health is something that should be a concern for each and every one of us. And I'm not sure in terms of statistics, but I'm pretty sure that most of us listening have some form of encounter with mental health, whether it be that we ourselves may have a mental health difficulty right now, or we have a family member who may be struggling with a mental health condition. And of course, a lot of the mental health conditions are on the rise for a lot of different reasons. So it's a topic that we have to talk about often, and we have to deeply think about how it may impact you, how it impacts your siblings, your families, your friends, your co-workers, and of course ways to identify persons who may be struggling with their mental health, and to be able to then mitigate some changes, lifestyle changes, whatever it may be, that may help to alleviate the negative symptoms. And when you say mental health is just the health of your mental, your psychosocial health, all of these things. But when we're talking about mental health difficulties, then that is when we talk about the areas in which we are strained when
Mhm.
it comes to our mental health.
Mhm. And with that being said, let's kick off. I want to maybe start with Odilia asking, when we talk about mental health challenges, one of the common ones that is discussed or is known is depression. Now, if someone is feeling what I described earlier as the holiday blues, a sort of sadness that is taking over them during the holidays, is this the same as being depressed? So I want a little insight from you as to depression. What really is it, and does the holiday blues qualify as a depression or depressive episode? What is the technicality there?
Okay, so depression is a diagnosable condition, and it's a
Mhm.
mood disorder where you are going to have persistent sadness over a period of time, loss of interest, you feel hopeless, empty, and it's not just going to happen at Christmas time.
Mm.
It's going to be affecting you over a period of time. You have feelings of worthlessness and guilt, and the things that you used to do, you have no interest in them before. Some people might be sleeping more than usual, sleeping less than usual, eating more than usual, or
Mhm.
eating less than usual. They're irritable, they're tired, they can't concentrate, they have difficulty making decisions. You might even find them like sort of slowing down, so their speech is slow, their movements are slow. And some people might even have unexplained aches and pains. Oh, my head hurting, my back hurting, my stomach hurting. They go to the doctor, but there's no physical association to the pain. When it comes to the holiday blues, quote unquote, as we are approaching the end of the year, many of us feel happy. We're excited for Christmas to drink the sorrel and eat the black cake, and family might be coming in, and so we're really excited. It's a joyful time for us, but that's not everybody's reality. In fact, at this time of year, a lot of people feel stressed, sad, and anxious for a variety of reasons. That could be they may have lost a loved one. And so the holidays are spotlighting now the people who are missing in their lives. People are thinking about relationships that have changed over the year. People are now reflecting on the year that has gone because Christmas is close to the end of the year. Did I accomplish what I set out to accomplish? Was I successful in the things that I wanted to do this year? And then what makes it even harder is at the end of the year, people are doing their wrapped, their 2025 wrapped. And I've started seeing them already coming out on social media. Their dating wrapped, even their music wrapped, things that they've accomplished. Oh, I've been, to Bali, and I've been here and there and traveled to all these places. Oh, and I got my degree, and I got married, and I got pregnant. And you may not have accomplished any of those things. You just made it through every day. And that in itself is an accomplishment. Just putting one foot in front of the other is an accomplishment. But when we start comparing ourselves, like, okay, what did I really accomplish for 2025? And we start reflecting on the year and things that have gone wrong. And so people start feeling that they're falling behind, that they didn't do anything good with their lives for the year. And that's what is where the holiday blues come in, because we are reflecting on what has gone by in this year, and we're thinking to ourselves, did I really accomplish what I needed to, what I wanted to? And then those people who are grieving, they've lost loved ones, whether it's through death or the ending of a relationship. And so you're thinking about all of that, because around Christmas time, families are together. And when you go to the Christmas table now to enjoy your Christmas meal, and there's a missing space, somebody isn't there, that can be hard for some people.
So we're saying that all of this sort of reflection, um, you know, uh, this can trigger these feelings of sadness
Yeah,
amongst people, but they would not. It's not a diagnosable depression.
not not at
Okay,
that time. So
okay.
this person would have to be monitored over time to
Mm-hmm.
see and meet the criteria over time to be diagnosed with depression.
Okay. And there's something called seasonal affective disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
I know people in temperate countries often
Yeah.
experience this with the change of
In
the
weather.
season.
Mhm.
They start to experience difficulty mentally. Is this something that we see in the Caribbean? Can we in the Caribbean experience seasonal affective disorder or mental health challenges to do with the season?
With the seasons, with the seasons, we don't have seasons.
Okay.
We have rain, and it's either rainy season or dry season. Um, but we don't really have seasonal affective disorder. What I have been seeing though, working here, is when it's coming to hurricane time, because
Ah.
we've had that experience, particularly with Beryl, and Dominique would have had your experience as well with other
Mhm.
hurricanes. Persons start feeling anxious and depressed. They start feeling like the hurricane season is coming. What's going to happen this time? Is it going to be as destructive as last year? And with our experience with Beryl, which was so recent last year, I have been working with a lot of people, children and adults. When it gets too windy, when the rain starts falling, they start feeling anxious. Is Beryl coming back? Is something coming that is going to hurt us?
Mhm.
And then we had our volcano erupting in 2021, and persons who lived under the volcano, they still experience, if they start smelling the sulfur, because sometimes we get that smell, if they start smelling the sulfur, or if there's like a little earthquake or anything, they start worrying that the volcano is going to be erupting again. So while we may not have the seasons with winter and people feeling sad during winter because it's cold, you can't go outside, your vitamin D levels are dropping, all of those things, we do have our own concerns. And it's not in the DSM-5,
Okay.
but these are the things that we have been seeing from practical experience, that with the hurricane season, with our volcano as well, people start to get anxious around these issues.
Okay. So not, not precisely what happens in the temperate countries with winter and
Yeah,
and that sort of aspect of things, but we do have in other seasons or in at other times we have mental health crises, I would maybe
yeah,
say, in the
yeah,
Caribbean as well. Okay. All right.
yeah.
I want to touch a bit on the Odelia mentioned the loss of loved ones triggering this sort of sadness, and we spoke about that earlier. So I want to ask you, Miss Yankee, as it relates to loss, what do you see, or what is the reality in terms of this feeling coming about associated with loss or associated with someone having died? What is the reality in terms of how long do people struggle with this? I know a lot of times people think, well, so long ago, so and so lost their mother, but every Christmas they start to post about their mother, their mother, their mother. What is the reality in terms of grieving and time and length of time? Mm.
Okay, in terms of loss and grieving, there is no time limit
Mm.
on it. It is specific to the individual and even the work that the individual has done.
Mhm.
So around the holiday time, and just to add to what our colleague was sharing, we have to be clear when we talk about holiday blues, it's a feeling that comes on only during the holiday time. So if the feeling continues past the holiday, it is not holiday blues. So when Christmas is coming, usually that is a time when, as she mentioned, families come together, persons are celebrating, but for each individual, their holiday traditions may be different. So for one individual, holiday may mean okay, we go to the country to spend time with granny and the aunties and so on. So if somebody died during that time, it may bring back the feeling of loss that we no longer have this time to share with this person, and sometimes things may have changed drastically from what it used to be. So sometimes after death, you may find that the family separates and breaks apart, and even the person who kept it going, they are no longer there. So that can also bring on that grief, that sadness, and Christmas, the holiday, is no longer what it was. So it is very important for individuals to be mindful of their specific situation and do the work to make the adjustment. So you acknowledge and realize, okay, this is what I have been through. What do I need to do? Because sometimes grieving is a painful experience. We don't like to feel pain. So persons may suppress. That might be their coping strategy. They suppress it, they pretend it doesn't exist, and sometimes persons utilize a lot of substance use. So sometimes when we hear of substance use, we think it's just alcohol or drugs. But that is the time all the cake is there and all the food. So persons may find themselves eating and
Overeating.
eating and eating, even to the point where it is a problem.
Okay.
And that might be their way of suppressing. But because we don't see, let's say, food as something quote unquote harmful, we may not even realize that's a way of numbing their pain.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned you work with children regularly. So in terms of the youth or the children of that age, do you see a lot of this holiday blues manifesting in the way that you describe?
Okay, so for the children, because they have no control over their circumstances, so what happens to the adults in their life will affect them. So, like, say, for example, even with the economic um, downturn, some families, dad, mom may have lost their job, so the money is not there for me to enjoy Christmas like we used to, or like I see others enjoying. So, they are not buying me the wish list items or what is in my cart and those things. So then, even well, with the children, because a lot of them are exposed to the social media, you find they being affected a lot by what is happening online, what they are seeing, what they are hearing, and even not even experiencing what is happening in their life, but they are in that world out there. Yeah.
That's a very important point about social media because I feel like it
Yes.
has changed, the dynamic so much as it relates to mental health. I saw Australia just issued a ban on social media for
Age 16
children
and
under
below.
16, and
16.
I guess observing what are the things coming out of this reliance on social media amongst young
Yeah,
people.
because also their expectations now are motivated by what they
They
see. So
see.
for us, Christmas is our ham, our turkey, singing our carols. But when they watch, they see Christmas being all other things that are not part of our tradition, and they want those things. So their expectations are even unrealistic and even moving away from the traditions and practices that we grow up with and we should be passing on to them.
Right? And I know some people who are big Grinches over the holidays simply for that fact. Christmas is one thing for one set of people, it's another thing for another set. And some of the Grinches I know, they will allot it to the fact that Christmas seems to be a financial ploy to, a commercial event. And for some people it is. And like you say, when it comes to social media, it really does push the commercial aspect. And why wouldn't a business push commercial in that time anyway? Right? So I think it's so important that we have conversations with our children as to the reality of what life is. A lot of times, the things that we see on social media are plot together. It's not necessarily how these people live. It's not necessarily what happens for them all the time. And it kind of gives the portrayal that some people just don't have any issues whatsoever. Whether you have little, you have your own issues. People who have a lot have issues. People who have the most have issues. So I think it's important that we all know that one way or the other, something maybe tax into somebody's mental health. Doesn't matter if they have a lot of stuff, if they can afford to buy a lot of stuff, so that at least we're somewhere on the same level as to things in life can affect us. And so I think it's important that we speak to our children about the situation that we're in, frequently and regularly, so they know what to expect
Mhm.
of their family situation. I think it's so unrealistic sometimes that, and again, children, you can't blame them. They're not fully developed. They might not understand, but I feel if you have a conversation, they'll better understand what is the ability of their family and what isn't. And I think in this season as well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these children lean, on their friends they think that have more than them. Sometimes they want
Mhm.
to, Mom, can I go buy Trudy on Christmas Day? But
Mhm.
you're thinking as an adult that this is a request, that why would you want to be away from your family on Christmas? Because why? For a lot of us here, Christmas is about family. It's about gathering. We'll say food because food always brings us together, whether it's Christmas, Creole, Carnival, whatever the time may be. So I
Mhm.
think it's important that we instill in our children locally what the meaning of Christmas is for us, here in
Mhm.
Dominica.
Odile, I want you to weigh in on this, the changing expectations, I guess, and also the financial pressure that
Yeah.
can impact people during the holidays. Is that something that you see in your interactions, your counseling of people? What is the scenario like from your perspective?
I was here listening and just going,
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
Because again, takes me back to social media.
Mhm.
Everybody is online. The young, the middle aged, the old, everybody is online. And so now when you see what is out there and what other people are getting, you want that too. Why can't I have that too? And so it's not just the children that wants the big gifts now. Even the adults, even our traditions are changing,
Mhm.
and the adults are part of it as well. We talked about the commercialization of Christmas. Um, who are the working people? Who has the spending power? The adults.
Mhm.
We are engaging in the commercialization of Christmas, right?
Yes.
And we are also comparing what we have and what we can give our kids to what our coworker can give their kids and what our neighbor can give their kids. So if somebody's buying a bicycle for their child, we are scrunching around a penny here, a penny there to try and get the same thing. But again, I completely agree with you. We need to be having these conversations with our kids. They
Mhm.
understand concepts that you don't think they understand. Just try to make the conversation age appropriate.
Mhm.
Kids should be involved in your budget conversations. This is what the income is of this household. And when we take away what the bills are, don't you want a roof over your head? Don't you want electricity? Don't you want internet? If
Mhm.
I have to buy you this thing, that means that I cannot pay the internet bill. So you will not have internet for a month, 2 months, 3 months. We have to put it in perspective for them in language that they will understand. They want the internet. So they will choose the internet, right? So if I have to buy you this, whatever, this large, expensive gift, that means the rent can't be paid, the mortgage can't be paid. Where are you going to sleep? What's going to happen to you? I can't send you to school. And so we have to teach our children about priorities. What is truly important at this time? And I could tell you from my childhood experience, my parents had these conversations with us. So I am not afraid to talk about money and so on as an adult. I learned about budgeting as a child. When we became teenagers, my father got us Christmas jobs. So what when we were finished with our Christmas jobs, we had a budget that we worked with our father. He spent all his years in finance. So we had a budget that we had to work through with him. We had to take out our tithes and offerings. We had to take out money to save. And then we had to then spend the rest on gifts. And everybody's gift had to be like about, I think the max was $20. So we had to be creative with what we got each other and what we got for our parents with our $20 per
Mhm.
person. And that prepared me to be an adult. So if parents could only do that, when children have to spend their own hard-earned money to buy gifts, and you take them to shop and they realize the dollar amount, they get shocked. That's really how much it costs. Ooh. And then they realize, I rather eat, I rather have X, Y, and Z than that. There can be other things you can get. Is there something else that they can get? We have to prioritize. You can't get this $500 Nintendo Switch, but I can get you something else. And have frank conversations with them. And as adults, we too have to understand, we have to also live it in our means. We have to lead by example. If you can't afford to get a cheesecake, but you could make a banana bread, make the banana bread, right? If you can't afford the ham and you could buy some leg quarters and season it up good and roast it, bake it, fry it, do something nice with it, do that. But we have to lead by example. But if you have to be, or your child wants an iPhone and you have to borrow from Pam, borrow some from Susie, borrow some from Tom to get your child this iPhone, what are you teaching them? And what are you doing to yourself? So as adults, we also have to take responsibility for how these things are happening. And so, yes, I see it. I see it all the time. And I have to be talking to parents a lot about budgeting and being honest with our kids. We cannot afford it.
There's one thing I wanted to add in there. I saw a video once that this guy, he took his child into the supermarket and he gave him $20. The child was about 4, and he gave him $20 and he taught him how to spend that money. And I think that's a good example that some of us can use here. So when you go shopping, even if it's a $10, so you're doing your shopping and child has $10, and you tell them they can shop what they want for that $10. But best believe they will pick up a few items, they will pass the $10. And then you can let them know, well, you are $5 over. So if you're taking this, you
Yes.
can have this.
Right.
And then you get a way to kind of understand the meaning of money and the dollar value and stuff.
Yes.
And that's something that you can start with children from pretty young.
So I guess we're kind of going into some of the strategies to counteract some of the challenges you may have during the season that would lead to those holiday blues. Financial abilities is a big one, and the whole aspect of expectations from
Yes.
family, from children, as it relates to finances and gifts and even food, you mentioned. So financial ability is one. I want to speak to Mrs. Yankee about another one. I know you are trained in grief and loss. What about loss of not a person but of a health status that you held dear? So you're reflecting on the year, it's the end of the year,
Yeah.
of course, and you think, this year I wanted to I gained a lot of weight. I was diagnosed with diabetes. I found out I'm a diabetic this year, or hypertensive. I was diagnosed with hypertension, or my readings are high. Or I wanted to have a baby, and this year I did not manage to get pregnant. So this sort of a loss of maybe a health ideal that you had held dear. How do you, or what are some ways to deal with that?
Okay, so firstly, my advice to persons is start by acknowledging the feeling. Acknowledge that I am hurt, I am sad, I am disappointed, I am broken, and experience that. So if you have to bawl, if you have to cry, if you have to whatever it is, allow yourself to go through the grieving process. Because one example I use is just like, let us say you cut yourself. You go to the health center, they have to clean it with that burning thing and so on, and you don't want to go through it. But if you don't allow them to clean it, you will not experience that pain, but then afterwards it will get infected and you will have a bigger problem. So it's the same thing with the loss that you are saying. So let's say it's the loss of the plans that you had that didn't work out. That is a loss and you experience grief. So you have to acknowledge it, process it, go through it. But for mental health and well-being, you don't stay there. That is where the problem lies. When you
Okay.
stay there in the grief and the sadness and the hopelessness, and you just going deeper and deeper in the hole. So after you have experience, and the feelings will come at different times. So it's not like, okay, I cry and I finish crying and I'm fine. There are things that will trigger. So as you said, let's say you were hoping to have a baby, didn't happen. You see a friend that's pregnant. You see somebody come to an activity with their little baby, and it was your hope to have your own baby. So you will be triggered at that time. Again, you allow the feelings to, you don't suppress it. You feel sad. Okay, I am sad. And then you move on. But you have to know yourself and what do I need to do to move on. So after you have done the practical things with whatever the situation is, maybe you have to come to terms that I may not ever be able to have one. What else can I do? Can I adopt? Can I, whatever. If it's as you were saying earlier, health situation, I don't stay there. What can I do? We have to be realistic and practical. So it means I cannot eat half of the cake. I may just be able to eat half a slice and drink water. So you have to prepare. So just like we were talking about the finances to help prevent the holiday blues, it's important to prepare. You may need to get an additional job. You may need to do a budget. Same thing for the dealing with the loss and grief. You prepare. What do I need to do? Persons will say things non-intentionally, but it will hurt me. So you may need to even prepare certain lines like, okay, I am not willing to speak about that now. So you shut it down. Because somebody may just come, boy, I'm so sorry. And and that time you don't want to, so you prepare your lines already. You shut it down. Um, Even in terms of preparation, when the feeling comes, you may want to stay isolated. You have your team of persons that you can call on so they know for this month, for this month and a half, you are on speed dial. And the person may just be, that one to just listen to the story for the 100th time. So you have to have your plan. So you have your team. It might be two, it might be three persons. Ensure you do not stay isolated because the feeling is just for you to stay in that hole. And for those of us who may not be experiencing the loss, we too need to remember, okay, I remember Trudy went through that. Christmas might be difficult for her. Let me reach out. So it's not just about, preparing our armor for ourselves, but also thinking of all, because that's what Christmas is about, not just the practical, but emotionally. So does she have somewhere to go for Christmas? Let us invite her. Let me give her a call. That kind of thing in terms of preparing ourselves, but also looking out for others.
And I really want to go a little further into that, and I want to hear from both our guests how now, because you've given some examples in what you've just said, but for us, people who, and I shouldn't say us like I am in the us, but for people who are not experiencing any sort of holiday blues or challenges or experiencing loss or experiencing grief, how do we help others the best? What are the best ways that we can be empathetic and helpful to those around us who may be, or even how best can we be more aware? So you mentioned this thing about, first of all, people have to acknowledge their feelings, and then they have to plan, how are they going to deal with it, how are they going to, but for us on the outside, or for people on the outside, what are some things that we should be mindful of. And I like the one you just gave about things that people maybe would say that will trigger somebody. So I want, some more insight into how can the general population
Like,
kind of be more mindful and more empathetic, to people who may be struggling in this time. So I want everybody to weigh in on that, because I really,
okay.
this is a very important part of this discussion.
Yes. I would say be kind. I think kindness is where we start.
Okay.
Being kind and being, I'm trying to find the words, being mindful of what we say. And asking yourself, is it kind? Is it helpful what I'm saying? And if I were in this person's situation, would I want somebody to say this to me or treat me this way? um I Going back to the example of loss and not being able to have a baby or a health challenge. When we see people at Christmas that we haven't seen in a while, what's the first thing we say? Girl, you put on weight, boy. Watch how big you get. You ain't had a
Mhm.
baby yet. And how that reaching the conversation? How, let's start with hi. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Why is it
Mm.
always somebody's weight or the fact that they haven't had a child yet, or you still only have one baby? What happened? You making no more for the man? I mean, how did we get here? And so being careful of what comes out of this. Because once it comes out, you can't take it back, You can apologize all you want, but the hurt is done, the damage is done. So being mindful of what comes out of our mouth. As it comes into your head, leave it up here, because you do not know what somebody is struggling with. They could be have put on weight for a health reason, they're on medication, they're struggling with their mental health, so they've been eating more than usual. They may not have a baby yet because they may be struggling with infertility. And so because of your careless words, you've just caused deep hurt and broken a relationship that didn't have to be broken. So being kind with what we say and what we do. Um, if it is that you are in a financial position where you can help out a family, I've been watching videos of angel trees in the States. Basically, it's just there are families that are struggling and not able to buy things for their children for Christmas. And so they put these names and the wishes of the children on these trees inside of Walmarts and Salvation Armies and other places. And so people who can afford will go and choose a name or few names and buy for these children. We don't
Ah.
have that set up here, but we know the needs in our communities. You know who in your community is struggling. You know who in your churches are struggling. You can do something. Maybe adopt a family or adopt a child and buy a Christmas gift, or if you can afford multiple Christmas gifts. What can you do in your capacity as an individual to help a family along the way, especially when you know that there are needs? So for me, I would say start with being kind and
Mhm.
helping in whatever area that you can. If your family
Mhm.
doesn't have a meal, maybe you can invite them over to your home for Christmas to share your meal. Or if you can afford, you can buy groceries for them to be able to prepare a special Christmas meal. So these are some things that I think that if we are outside looking in, some things that we can do practically.
Mhm. I like those two.
Let me just
Mhm.
add some more. In addition to what she said, we also can be direct, because
Okay.
sometimes we skirt around it.
Mhm.
I know you went through that. How are you? How can I help?
Mm.
So the person will let
Yes.
you know, okay, I would like to be left alone. This would be helpful. Because sometimes we in our mind think what would be good for them. Oh, you must come to the party, come. But where the person is at, that may not be good for them at that. So ask directly, how can I help? What do you need?
Mhm. And that may be difficult, but it's a good one,
Yeah.
because I mean,
Yes.
for I'm thinking of myself and how maybe I would know someone is going through something. Maybe and I would just ask. I would just like maybe check up on them, but I wouldn't ask directly how, like,
Yeah.
how can I help, or I would just try to be
Like
more sensitive in terms
a bit
of
of
my checks.
eggshells.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Yeah.
directness, I think I have struggled with that. So that's a very good one, but it's hard too.
And
And
I
even when
Yeah.
you're dealing with even that direct one, you still need to push. So you might ask, "How are
mhm,
you?" The person might just say, "I'm
I'm
fine."
I'm
fine.
But
fine.
you have
Uh-huh.
to
Mhm.
Right.
And,
what's going on with you, and then you have those pause moments, then sometimes a tear before, and
right.
then you go deeper. So you have to allow time to, because sometimes the person might see you as everybody else. Yes, you checking, but we tick the box, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not really going deep.
Mhm.
And I think that
Mm-hmm.
has to do too with your relationship with persons as well. So for
Yes.
instance, if I'm at work, I notice this one coworker maybe she was crying, but maybe we don't have a close relationship. More than likely, I might go to somebody who I know is close with her
Right.
and tell her, "Hey, can you check on her?" Because she'll be more receptive to you. So if I ask a direct question to someone that I don't relate to, every day, it's kind of looking like I she want to know my business, and maybe she doesn't care, she just wondering, so sometimes it's
Mhm.
important to identify your role to in those person's lives, and when you can and cannot take certain approaches. And something we were talking about before, a lot of it was culmination end of the year, and you think about what you've gone through the year. You think about what you haven't accomplished, what you couldn't accomplish, what you're still trying for. And then we put this burden on ourselves that we didn't meet. And sometimes we don't even know we put a timeline on it, but we put a timeline on it because the end of the year is just the end of the year. So long as God is not ready for you and tomorrow is not your day, you have more time to then continue on your goal. And a lot of times, why you find persons having these pressing feelings to have those New Year's resolutions, or New Year's resolutions happening every year in the beginning with the same thing, or every year in the beginning, and or they just can't start looking at it. It's simply because we reach the end of the year and we think that because we have not met our goal where we want to be, we failed. December is not the boundary of whatever it is that we're doing. December is not the end point. December is not, like I said, unless God is ready. December is not your end. So it is that if you have a goal, maybe you've not met it in December, but you might meet it next year June. You
Mm-hmm.
might meet it the
Yeah.
next December. You might meet it next September. It might take you 3 years. And when we're talking about stuff like, for instance, we talk about the weight loss and the difficulty to get it off, we've spoken about it in other shows, and these things are not things that you can put a year on. It takes years, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose. So if we're talking about weight, or we're talking about managing NCDs, so chronic conditions, these are things that might have to have timelines of years of healthy eating,
Mm-hmm.
years of exercise,
Mhm.
years of changes,
Continuous
right?
efforts. Yes.
Continuous effort. So
Mm-hmm.
please do not get to the end of the year and say that I've made no progress. And sometimes progress can be not linear. So sometimes you might have made progress, you might have been exercising steadily, you lost 20 pounds, you got to July, and something happened. Maybe you had more to do at work, you couldn't exercise, you gained some more weight. Think of the little humps that you got over during the year. So I did it. I made 20 pounds. Maybe I gained back 20 pounds, but that means I can't do it. So sometimes it's setting the aside the negatives, finding the little positives in between them, because life is full of ups and downs
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that, and not giving yourself unrealistic goals in terms of timelines.
Mm-hmm. So we have, our listeners weighing in. I
Uh,
want to
can
give those.
can I add here?
Yes.
This is not for the persons looking in, but for the
Mm.
individual them.
Okay. I think our guest is having a bit of a challenge with her connectivity. So we have lost her for a little bit, but Odilia, when you get back on, you'll continue that thought that you were just expressing. I wanted to open up. Our viewers, our listeners have been weighing in on social media. I want to give the listeners on radio that opportunity. Of course, our numbers here: 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4254. 657. If you are overseas and you'd like to chime in on the program, the number is 305 432 9624. So those are our numbers. We've been discussing managing your mental health, particularly with the challenges of the holiday season. And we have two very able ladies with us in the house. Odelia Thomas from St. Vincent, who is a psychologist, and Mrs. Antonia Yankee, who is a counselor specialized in grief and loss management. So you can weigh in if you want. We had someone in the comments weighing in and speaking to the aspect of expectations, financial expectations, and basically giving some I think Odelia, you were the one who was saying parents should discuss with their children what are the finances of the household and so on. And the listener is saying that the parent should also essentially, if you cannot buy an expensive toy for the child like the Xbox, you shouldn't be showing the child that you're buying a Louis Vuitton purse. So leading by example, essentially, when it comes to
Example.
financial responsibility. So we're getting that from the comments. I wanted to acknowledge that. And also another viewer is saying that people should have conversations with their children. Another person is saying that the conversation is interesting and they're listening. So we have a few comments coming in, but if you want to chime in on the phone, feel free to do so. The lines are open for you to do so right now. But Odelia, you back. You were expressing a thought.
Yes.
You got cut off.
It's, yes, sorry, the internet is not cooperating with me today.
Uh-oh.
today. But what I was saying is that sometimes we'll have to create boundaries in order to protect our mental health during the season. Sometimes you'll just have to say no. And no is a complete sentence. No, I cannot come to that event. No, I'm not having that conversation with you. No, I am not spending that money. So we have to sometimes create boundaries to protect ourselves and our mental health during this time of year. Because it can be very hard. It can be very hard for some of us. And boundaries can also include limiting your social media. People only put their highlight reels. They're not going to show you the struggles that they took to get there, or if they had to take a loan to buy what they have, or what they did to get what they have. When I was a little girl, my mother used to always say, don't watch anybody for what they have because you don't know what they did to get it. And I don't hear a lot of parents saying that, and I don't hear a lot of us telling ourselves that. So we are looking at people's highlight reels and we are just feeling so bad about ourselves. But you don't know what they did to get there. When that camera shuts off, do you know what's happening in these people's lives? Are they truly happy? So setting boundaries to protect ourselves. So even if that means come off of TikTok for a while, come off of Instagram for a while, because this is the time of year and everybody is putting up all that they've done, all that they've accomplished, all that they're going to do for Christmas. And then after Christmas comes the gift hauls, showing you what I got for Christmas. I got that Louis Vuitton purse, and I got this, and I got that. And you're there, well, all I got was Christmas cake. You start to feel bad about yourself. But sometimes that's a boundary we'll have to put for ourselves, limiting social media, use for a while, just to get us through this season.
You mentioned that, and something interesting about that is I think we've talked about grief and loss of family and family time during the holidays, but what about the opposite? Because I know some people don't particularly like the holidays because maybe the family doesn't get along. And something that you mentioned too, when you talk about the gifts that we see persons get, this causes unnecessary rifts between family members. Sometimes you and your husband are there, you're watching what this girl got for her gifts for Christmas, and her husband did this and her husband did that. And then you
Mhm.
might start to resent your own husband, knowing what your
Yes.
financial situation is, knowing what you can do and afford. But still, I'm saying, you didn't get me nothing. You got me one gift. The girl got 10
Mhm.
gifts. So it's
Mhm.
also things that we
Mhm.
have to identify as adults. It's not just children who covet these things.
Yes.
It's also us. Mm.
And
Mhm.
it goes back to the same realistic expectation,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because we know our partners, our children, our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I have a husband that will buy me a gift, or if he
I
will just
don't.
tell me, look,
Mm-hmm.
$100, or he just might even say, I myself do believe in Christmas. So
Right.
you
Right.
have to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
If that is your situation, you have to work within your situation. Maybe
Right.
buy yourself the gift, wrap it, put it
And
under the tree
open
for
it.
yourself.
And we need to stop telling others how they need to be celebrated. That is one of the issues I think that is big in our culture. So for instance, my boyfriend is a romantic boyfriend. I mean, sometimes we all crave romance, and that's nothing wrong to tell your partner that you crave romance. But my boyfriend for Christmas will get me a gift. He will not ask me, it will be a surprise, and I like that because I like surprises. My friend might not like surprises. And she might very much rather he just gives her money every time and she does what she wants with it. But then I'm trying to force my friend to say, if he giving you money, that means he didn't have any thought process. He didn't care about you. He just dashing money on you. No, and then she listens to me, knowing that she prefers money, knowing that her boyfriend knows she prefers money. So it's all of these different things that we have to look into, and I think it stems back to the same thing of us wanting what other persons have. It's important to know your dynamic, not just in your family, but in your relationships, so you keep those things healthy throughout those times.
Mhm. Mhm. So I mean, we approaching the end of the program. I wanted to get almost sort of a guideline from our guests on things we've spoken about, but everything that leads to maintaining or preserving or optimizing your mental health in this season. We've said a lot of things. We've spoken about boundaries. We've spoken about being direct with people. We've spoken about maybe knowing triggers and avoiding. But ladies, if you would have to put together a checklist
Mhm.
of how to optimize your mental health or to protect your mental health during the holiday season, I want to, as we're wrapping up, maybe get free takeaways from both people that our audience can really go with, because I know people are listening intently and sometimes people are
Mhm.
experiencing things too. They might not want to call to discuss it,
Mhm.
but a lot of the things that we've said have registered in our listeners' minds as to, yes, this is something that I really struggle with. How best do I proceed? So who do we take first?
Okay,
You want to start first? Okay.
okay.
Hmm.
I want those who are listening to take away, number one, the signs. What do I look for to realize if I am struggling, if I'm experiencing this blues? So you look at your sleeping habits. Am I sleeping more than usual, eating more than usual? Am I irritable? Am I tired more than normal? Am I feeling stressed and overwhelmed? um, Not experiencing happiness. So things that I would be doing during the season that I would normally enjoy, but it is not bringing me any joy. The pleasurable activities, they are not pleasurable. Those are signs that mental health is at risk. So please take note. How do I cope? Acknowledge, as I said before, the feelings, set realistic expectation, seek the social connections, because we are social beings.
Mhm.
We do not thrive in isolation. We saw how post-COVID, how so many persons up to now. So look for the social connections, reach
Okay.
out for help. If you realize, okay, I am struggling, seek help, call somebody. And as we were saying before, avoid the comparisons. Do not compare yourself with others. And if post the holiday period you are still feeling those ways, get help.
Mhm. Okay, I take that. So, Odelia, over to you now. What are some of your takeaways, your guidelines?
Yes, I'm just gonna add to what she has said because that's a
Okay.
really those are really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
I would say practice daily wellness
Mm-hmm.
habits. We sometimes ignore ourselves during this time, and that would be what something that I would talk about. Something that is supportive of your mental health every day, whether that's taking a walk, calling a friend, doing a coloring in your adult coloring book,
Mm-hmm.
something daily, writing in your journal, listening to music that you love, just being outside in the outdoors in the green and blue spaces. Um, for me, it's practicing something daily that takes care of you.
Right.
And and if you have children, and encourage that for them to practice with them, do it with them, so that they develop those habits as well. So for me, practice daily wellness habits. Again, limit your social media, honor your grief. It's a hard time for everybody. Um, we're talking about not just death, but loss of relationships. You don't get along with your family, and then
Mm-hmm.
everybody's expecting you to come over for Christmas, even though you're not getting along. So, um, honoring your grief. And I would just leave with, again, if you are experiencing anything, any of the symptoms that we've talked about before, please reach out for professional help. You do not have to carry everything alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it
Mm-hmm.
is an act of courage.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's a good end there. I We have a caller. Let's take this call. Caller, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How you doing?
Hi, good morning. I'm good.
Morning.
Um, I'm going to your other guest, whatever your house. I missed some of the conversation, so I may be but I think when we talk of the season, we need to spend more programs on service, and away from that focus on just it's like it's too much and I'm not saying there hasn't got to be That's I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to emphasize on these kinds of platforms where we're trying to make this that just giving transforms people's lives also.
Mm-hmm.
Just that same kid that you want to teach all these things, that kid can learn so much if the family just decides, we're taking Christmas to some place with some people. So I'm just saying, like, we need to, the I thing is also part of the problem because it's the ego that is creating a lot of mental problems for people. The ego. And I think we need to balance it back in that, and as we do these programs. I love the presentation and everything, but I just think when you look at that list, we need to start seeing service having more
Okay.
capacity in that list. I think that's where we need to go. Otherwise, anyway, God bless. Thanks for a nice morning program.
Thank you, caller.
Take care.
This was mentioned a little earlier by one of our guests. Odile, I believe, was speaking to,
Yes.
helping others as part of your Christmas duties, especially if people are struggling, trying to reach out. Do something for a family that may be in need, do something for a child who may be in need. And so this aspect of service was touched on a bit earlier, but caller, I agree. We can reinforce that, service, charity. The season is for those. I often put this as my personal sort of goal for the season. I like to think of some people who would not expect to receive anything from me. They're not my family members.
Mm-hmm.
They're not my bon gens or my friends. They're not my colleagues, essentially, but people who are just out there in the community that I may have interacted with, but they are not close to me, doing something special for them for the season. That is one of the ways that I celebrate Christmas. So I do agree, with this acts of service or acts of charity being something that we should focus on. So, Kola, I thank you for that. You came in right at the end of the program. Our guests will give in their checklist. We have Leona. Let us talk a little bit about the products of the week because they are in line with our topic this morning. So, Jolly's products of the week. What are they this week?
Okay, so our products of the week, yes, very, very in line with our mental health. We have two of them.
Mm.
One of them would be the Floridix Neurobalance. And as the name suggests, it does give you some neurological support. There's in there a lot of B vitamins and vitamin C. And for us who may be vegan or
Mm.
rather the herbal supplements, that is definitely one that you can go with. So in there infused is ashwagandha. Now, we spoke about ashwagandha before, but it helps in terms of calming you, de stressing you. If it is that you may be someone who's experiencing a bit of burden during the holidays, whether it be for whatever reason you are stressed, and you're having some mental difficulty, or you're just exasperated by everything that you have to
Mhm.
do or get done, that is one of the vitamins that you can come in to any of our stores on the OTC aisle or talk to any of the pharmacists about this product. And for those of us who may be having more of a slow Christmas, so like we said, your movements might get slower, your energy levels deplete. During Christmas, we have longer hours, we have less light, less time outside, all your vitamin D levels, all these things. You can come in and then ask about our second product, that is the Mason B Stress Complex with some antioxidants in there. So there's some zinc and other antioxidants that will help with that oxidative stress. It as well is fused, as it says, with the B vitamins, and the B vitamins helps a lot with our energy levels. So if you're feeling low or you need a little more energy to get through the day, the longer hours, you can come in and get any one of those. So we have the
Mhm.
Floridix Neurobalance and the B Stress Complex that we're highlighting for the week.
Yes, pretty good products of the week. So if you visit in Jolly's, those are two products you could ask about. And of course, a lot of other things as well. I know this is the
Mhm.
season that you may want to, even as we were just speaking about charity and service, you may want to do something nice for someone as it relates to maintaining their health.
For sure.
And Jolly's Pharmacy might be the place to visit to get that done for the person. So we ending this program. Of course, it was another nice Wednesday here on Health Vibes. And I hope that what we brought to you on the program was helpful for those listening, or could, inspire some thought and some action maybe in some listeners as well. So we're signing off. I want to thank our guests so much for their time. Odelia from St. Vincent on with us, and Mrs. Yankee in studio with us. I thank you all so much for gracing us with your presence on the show. And I look forward to maybe this not being the last time. It was the first time for both of you, but possibly not the last time on Health Vibes. So as we sign out, I wish everyone a great week. And I hope that you can join us again next week for another episode of Health Vibes. Until then, take care and do have a good rest of the week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing vibes to health with Health Vibes. Health Vibes. Each and every Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 a.m. with your hosts, Trudy Kristen, and co-hosts pharmacists Jacinta Fagan and Leona